Hey everybody, welcome to Creative Conversations with David and Donna. I'm David.
I'm Donna.
I'm Casey.
There she
Okay,
is.
so just to make sure, did you have a delay in hearing us, or did you just take a
No,
second to
no,
say
I
it?
just, I just didn't know I was supposed to. I
Oh,
didn't know if it was, I'm
okay.
sorry. Let's start over.
No, we don't have
I,
to
I
start
don't
over. We don't have to start over. We don't have to start over. I just want to make sure that that like there isn't a heavy delay over Skype.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so we're doing this over Skype. We've never done that before. Usually we're in person, and it felt really
Nope.
nice to say, "Hey everybody, welcome to Creative." It felt nice to do that again because it's been a little minute. Life's been pretty crazy,
Yeah,
but
we had to drop our ball. We have never done that, but we had
no.
to.
But I feel
Well,
like
there's
it's
been a
okay.
global pandemic, so.
Right.
Well, no, we did this before the global pandemic. I don't remember the
Yeah.
reason. Do you remember,
We
David?
couldn't meet on the previous Sunday, like before the play, like the week before the play, we couldn't meet,
Oh,
and
okay. You were busy with your dad,
on the
and I can't
weekend, yeah.
remember.
I was
Yeah,
busy on
and
the
I know what it
weekend,
was.
and you were
It
busy.
was the week of.
Yeah, with the week of the play
Uh,
rehearsing, so we just couldn't get one up last week. But this week we'll have one up. So it was like
right.
during the play we should have had one up, but it didn't go up. But we did that. The play went on, and then so yeah, the pandemic we can't blame. In fact, now we're just doing this over Skype. We're self isolated in our lovely
Yes.
homes. So we're gonna do this over Skype, and I hope that it doesn't horribly mess up in the middle of recording. I've never done this before, but I've been playing around with stuff. But it's okay that we haven't had any podcasts going up because I had a ton of content showing up on the channel the past couple of days. Definitely.
Does this have any kind of time limit? I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. Do you know? Is there a time limit on the
No,
amount?
no, there
Okay,
isn't.
cool.
No, we're good to go for as long. We could go for 24 hours if we
All
wanted to.
right.
Yeah.
But
Let's go.
Good.
we've had a lot of content come on the channel, though. I started a playthrough of Deus Ex Human Revolution. 2 episodes of that are up already. That's a lot of fun, a lot of experimenting there. I did a Last of Us fan casting, and I did a Game of Thrones, every character in Game of Thrones ranked. Those were some doozies. And also, um, me and Casey reviewed every single Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, and
We
we
did.
made the perfect grilled cheese. So we've had a few
Yes.
videos going up on the channel that y'all should check out.
Now, have you redone your grilled cheese video that you never could upload?
No, I just figured out how to upload the one we did like in November.
Yes. So it's not
Yes.
current, but it
Yeah.
is there.
It took a second. I had to use some probably illegal online video converters that transform it
Ooh.
to a MP4 and blah 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 blah. But yeah, it's all good. Um, so that's up now. Definitely check that out, everybody. Lots of fun stuff that we're doing. Lots more stuff coming, and we're gonna have, that's what Stay Creative is. It's a production company, and we're producing things. So
Yes.
got that business out the way. Now we need to jump into what the actual topic of the podcast is going to be, which let Donna take it from here and tell us what
Oh,
we're
I
going to do
think we need
today.
to let Casey, since she's our guest, tell us why you're here and what
Yeah.
we're here to talk about.
Well, the Denham Springs Theater Department has recently done a play, and it's called River and Juliana, and me and Donna wrote it. And we had 2 shows, and it took us a while to write it, but it finally happened, and it almost got canceled by the global pandemic. But
Absolutely.
we did get to have it, which honestly was just a real, that was a real miracle, because they could have easily said, you can't do it, but the school let us do it. And I think both plays went amazing, both nights of the play. I mean, I think it went great.
I do too. It was amazing. I'm so excited. What happened, just for, I guess, to set the scene, so to speak, is that Friday at lunch, they sent out this message from the governor that said, starting Monday, all schools will be closed through April 13th.
Yes.
And of course, there was mass pandemonium, and every student in the cast is sticking their head in my door going, are we still doing the play? And I kept
Yes.
saying, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no clue. I assumed that since they said Monday that maybe we were okay, but then there was quick to follow this other thing that said no more than 250 people could gather starting now, and we don't normally have such a huge audience, but even still, that would be kind of on the edge.
Yeah.
So we asked and asked and asked. I emailed and texted and different students.
I went to the office and personally asked the principal if we could do it, but he said, let me talk to your teacher, but eventually we got the answer.
Yes. When he got to me, he said, I really don't know what to tell you still. I don't have any reason to tell you no. And I said, well, I'm concerned because if all these kids stay after school and one parent says my kid can't do it, we really don't have a script. I mean, what am I trying to say? A cast.
Yeah. We didn't have an understudy that would be able to fill in for that one person. Yeah.
So he said, well, I can't stop you from canceling it. I said, well, what would you do if you were in my place? He said, let's just do it and see what happens. And so I went and talked to the other theater teacher who had the same thought. And luckily, even though we kind of had a few, because people were late coming in or didn't have a phone and we didn't know how to get in touch with them, but we got the full cast both nights.
Yes.
And it went on, and it was amazing.
And we had the audience, too. I was worried that no one would show up because, they'd be afraid of the virus. But a lot of people showed up, and everyone was there, and everyone did amazing. And really, I think that the energy going on in rehearsals was amazing for this play. Mm-hmm. But I think that the fact that we almost couldn't do it made it even better because everyone just felt so, at least I know I did. I felt so lucky just to have it because I thought, wow, wow, we almost.
I agree. Yeah. And a lot of people kind of jumped up one more notch just because of that. Like, hey, we do actually get to put this on stage. And even if we have a small audience, which we didn't, but it was just the idea that we could actually do it. And it really did help the energy a whole lot.
Yes, because I think everyone realized that this is a privilege that students, even just like 3 years ago didn't have because the program's new. And, it's just kind of thinking like, wow, this is such a amazing thing that we can do this, we can put this play on. And I'm just really happy that it happened.
Me too.
Everyone was so happy about it.
Me too. And it was just a nice, if we're going to have to be away from each other as long as we're going to have to be, it's a nice way to end. Instead of ending on, I wish we could have, and maybe we can when we come back, which of course would have not been nearly the same. And we're very, very, very lucky. So I've talked a ton on the podcast with David about just the research I've done and the preparation and the actual writing. So we haven't talked to you about that. So talk to us about your writing process and kind of the work that you did on the script.
Well, we started working on it probably about a year ago. Once we finished our last play last year, which was in April, we got straight to work on this. And I think that I definitely, I did some research too. I really tried to, because you were alive in that time, but I was not. So so I didn't really have too much experience with this time, but I really wanted to look into it and try to make something as authentic as we could. And so I would just sit down and I'd write a little bit every day. I remember, we really we put the actual outline for Romeo and Juliet. I remember I wrote an outline for our play and an outline for the Romeo and Juliet, the actual play. And we set it up side by side just to see how closely it aligns. And I think the ending, the second act, I remember the first act, I got that done really quick. And, you edited it really quick. That was good to go. But the second act was a little more complicated because the whole thing about Romeo and Juliet is, it's a tragedy. But this is not a tragedy. They don't die at the end. So we had to figure out, how do we get this to end happily? Because obviously the whole second act of Romeo and Juliet was just one thing after the other going badly and then them dying at the end. So we had to revise that part a little bit. And I think that we had a lot of ideas, but we got something good together, I think.
Oh, I do too. So I heard you telling somebody that you really enjoyed the character of Peter. So you had a lot to do with creating all the different characters. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Peter was definitely one of my favorites to write because he's so ridiculous. He is Paris. He's the counterpart of Paris in the real play. And, Paris is the one that Juliet's parents, they want her to date. So in this one, you know, I was just thinking, like, we need to make him really unlikable, because they're like, oh, you know, they see him as this upstanding person, but Juliet sees him as just this, like, jerk, or Juliana in this case. And
Mm-hmm.
I could just go as all out with him as I wanted. You know, he's just, like, always showing off his muscles. He's always like, hey, you want to come play tennis with me, girl? I'll take it easy on you, you know? And a lot of the characters in this were fun to write, because I think that they all just have a really distinct personality.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like Thad, he was fun to write. And I think Juliana was a lot of fun to write too, because she's just this, you know, this independent woman in a good way.
Yeah.
And she, you know, she's different than her family, and she's just trying to bring things together. She's trying to balance what she wants and what her parents want. And I think that she was really fun to write. I actually liked writing Sarah too, her mother, because
Mm-hmm.
she you know, she has a lot going on too. Because she is more of a free spirit than her husband is. And
Right.
she approves more of what Juliana, you know, like how she wants to date a hippie, she approves more of that. And
Yes.
so she's trying to balance, you know, like looking good for the election, because obviously she wants her husband to get reelected, but also like doing what she thinks is right, and also balancing what her husband thinks is right. And I thought that, especially the part where her and Mother Sqribble talk, I really liked writing that, because I thought that I just thought both of them were solid characters, you know, and really, like, I could just go through each one and be like, this is what I liked writing about them, because I did. I liked writing all of them. They were just all so much fun, because they were all different, you know?
Mother Sabella is a cool character. That was our Friar Lawrence character. So she turns out to be the mother of the hippie tribe. And she's not like old enough to be their actual mother, but she's just the older kind of representation of maturity, I suppose.
Figure, yeah.
And I enjoyed some specific things, because what I did is basically you kept asking me about stuff, and I just kept telling you, write, just keep writing, just keep writing. And I was writing Vlad at the time, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to really stop and do another play. But that's why I wanted you to keep writing. But when it finally fell in my lap at Christmas for me to like get the finished version, I just went through each scene and added what I thought would make it flow more with the actual Shakespeare language, because I'm so familiar with it. So I got to add in some actual lines from Shakespeare, and I did the insult battle, which is what we did instead of the fight. So that was so much fun to write, because I went through and found a bunch of insults, and we had decided to have two teachers at schools kind of start with the insult battle between the two of them, because they kind of represent the two edges, or the two groups, I guess you could say, edges of society, if you will. And then the different ways that the insults were thrown around. And side note here, one of my former students who has performed so much Shakespeare came in and helped us really polish up that scene by kind of talking to us about how like each word is the only word that would get the point across. And just watching that evolve and then see how it actually turned out on stage for the final version was just so much fun to look at. And I will just throw this in. We do actually have the play on YouTube, so we will put the link at the bottom of this. So anybody who wants to watch it can watch it and see what we actually accomplished. It was a ton of fun. Yeah. And I want to say one more thing about what I enjoyed writing, because Casey and I always talked about what's going to happen. But then we got to these huge scenes that were like question marks for quite a while. And one of them was the Queen Mab speech. It's like, what are we going to do with that?
Oh, yes.
And we thought and tried to figure it out. And I just know how things generally happen for me when I have that kind of a problem. I just think about it a lot. And I thought about it a lot. And one day I sat down and I'm like, I have to write this now, because it was just time. It was time to write it. And it just came through. And it's one of the most favorite things I think I've ever written, because it's so similar to the Queen Mab speech, but in a way that totally fits our hippie theme. I just love it. And I'm so happy with the way we did it on stage. Our Mercury character just pulled it off, and then all the hippies behind and everything we did with it. It was just so much fun to see that through from the beginning to the end. Loved it so much. So David's been very quiet.
Yeah.
Well,
He saw both nights.
this letting you guys go off for a bit. I very much enjoyed the play. I liked every character a lot. I felt every character was there for a reason, which is nice.
Yeah.
I witnessed the writing process, and I really do believe that this is one of the more well come together plays that you've done. And I think a big part of that really is just the energy all the actors had, and a big reason we do this show after every play is so the actors can listen to it and hear good things said about them. I mean, I know that's why I would listen to it. So I just want to say, I think that I almost feel like this play could have been the worst written play of all time. It wasn't, but it could have been, and it still would have been good just because of how good the actors were doing on stage. You know what I mean? Like
Nope. I do not know what you mean.
What I'm trying to say is that the actors were doing such an amazing job. That's it. That's what I'm just saying. It's a good like the play. Okay. The script was great. The script was great. But it was so elevated by how amazing the actors were doing, and I just loved watching them all on stage and get into all the characters. And what I'm saying is they were doing such a good job that you could have handed them bad, and they would have done good because they're good. Does that make more sense?
Basically, you're saying that you could give the actors one of the worst plays written, but they would still make it funny because they're just so good. That's what you're saying. Okay.
I can see that point to a degree, but I just personally feel like it's the storyline they had to work with that helped them come to what they came to.
Well, yeah, I'm not trying to say that the storyline was bad. I'm just trying to say that the actors did a good job. I think they did a really great job, and I was very happy to see all the energy and the good energy that was there, and bring it all to life. And just I saw every single actor take their characters and make them their own, and there were a few bits of improv that I really liked, especially from Jason.
Oh yeah,
just constant. But
he was Mercury. Yeah,
and there's a lot of times improv. I mean, I've done it too. I'll improv and it just falls completely flat. It's a very dangerous game to play.
Yeah,
it is a very dangerous game to play, and so I was impressed with Jason not screwing that up once. Like everything he said, I thought was really good. When he said, "Another day, another test," my jaw was dropped for 5 minutes.
Literally, and your mouth stayed open for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
it looked like.
I was so happy about that.
He was glad to throw that in.
I need to clarify. I'm not trying to say y'all's play was bad. That's not at all what I was.
I'm playing with you, boy.
Okay,
I'm just saying. I think it's hard to make a bad script good, no matter how good the acting is. But I do totally understand what you mean, and thank you. I think it's a compliment.
It's a compliment. I think they just did such a great job. And so what I'm saying is when you give them a script as good as this one was, they can make it even better. It's like,
yes.
Take that and, just a fantastic job from the actors. That's my favorite part, is seeing all the actors play those characters up that y'all wrote so well. And I'm not like a huge Shakespeare fan, but I have read Romeo and Juliet because I took a 9th grade English class. So
exactly.
I did read it, and I saw all of the parallels, and it all worked as the story of Romeo and Juliet, just in this very different way. Until the end. The end is just completely different, but that's fine because it's nice to not see them kill themselves. I'm very happy that they didn't do that. What a twist that would have been.
Oh yeah, well, Lauren, she played our Juliana one night. She was like, "Why don't they die at the end?" And I was like, "Well, because it's not a tragedy." And she was like, "But that's the story. They die at the end."
Not this one, okay? It's okay to take liberties with things like that, I think, though. And
I agree. I love it. I love the way it turned out. I really do.
I think the spirit of the story is still there, just in a better.
The whole storyline, except for how they get together at the end instead of dying. But I wanted to comment about the rehearsal process. There were several rehearsals that we did with just the leads, so just our Rivers and Julianas. And that was a necessity because when you do something as famous as the balcony scene, you got to get that right. And we had really worked on it a good bit. And then Lester, my former student, who is now a theater teacher, really helped polish that as well. And it's just so cool because they videoed part of it and stuck it on our school's Facebook page. And when you see a balcony and 2 young people talking on a balcony, you immediately know, hey, they did Romeo and Juliet. And even though it's not Romeo and Juliet, it's our version. And I think that's very cool.
Yeah,
And
I whenever I was taking tickets at the door one night, a couple walked up, like just a couple and their young child, and what they said to me was like, is this the place for Romeo and Juliet? Like that's what they said. They were coming there looking for Romeo and Juliet. And I was like, well, River and Juliana, hope you're not disappointed. But your point is right. Where like people, you see those images and you're thinking Romeo and Juliet, and it's like people want to see Romeo and Juliet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope they weren't
Well, I
disappointed.
will say the lead only practices, I think that really helped. I played Juliana one night, and I think that one of the challenges with, you know, playing these characters is you have to, if you're River or Juliana, you have to act like you really, really like each other, and that's not something that we've really had to do to this degree on stage in this program yet.
Yeah, especially when it's Cameron. Like that's difficult.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, I think the lead only practices really helped us get comfortable with that. You know, like have the whole like, okay, so I'm gonna touch you like this, but it doesn't mean I actually like you. This is just acting, and it's weird to get used to it when you're first doing it.
Well, the audience literally gasped because both nights we had one River but two Julianas, and there was just a very slight peck on the lips as Juliana leaves, but people were like, I mean, people came to me at intermission and went, I can't believe they actually kissed. And I'm like, we didn't have like tongue makeout sessions. They just barely touched lips, but it was still a kiss on stage. It was like very surprising to quite a few people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that when I was actually doing it on stage, it didn't feel like to the audience it looked romantic, but personally to me it didn't feel romantic. I was just kind of like, okay, this is my friend that I've been doing this with for weeks now, and we're just doing it again for an audience this time, you know? And I think that that's exactly how it should feel. It needs to feel like you're going through the motions to look like you're really into this person, you know? And I think we did a pretty good job. You know, we came a long way from our first lead-only practice.
Well, you know, it is all acting, and that is the whole point. So I also, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have a question about the kiss, but we can come back to that if you want in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was just going to say I didn't require it. I told my leads, I said, look, this is a very romantic scene, so if you feel like you want to work the kiss in, it's totally up to you. If you don't, you know. But we had that lean in and interrupt 3 times, and we had to work on that timing. Oh,
yes, that was the thing in itself.
But then it was like, look, if y'all want to just go for a little quick kiss, I mean, that's what they would have done, you know. And so, all right, what's the question about the kiss?
My question is with the timing. Well, with choosing to do it, I'm curious what made you decide to put the kiss that early? Because if you're going to do a kiss and you're going to do one kiss, what made you decide to put it that early on in the story?
Because it's the balcony scene. It's the balcony scene.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, I'm not criticizing at all. I'm just trying to. I'm just
saying they really didn't have too many other chances in the script.
I mean,
possibly when they saw each other at school or.
Well, I'm saying,
it was
why not save it till the end? That's my question was. But that's a good answer because it's the balcony scene. So you felt like that was like the most iconic scene. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to do a kiss,
I think that they could have very definitely kissed at the very end when they were on stage alone. But I think kind of by that point it was like we've worked the balcony scene and the touch here and the rub here and the hold my hand here and the pull you back here so much on just that one scene that I felt like we had kind of done enough of that. And they were just so happy to be together at the end that I felt like it didn't really need a kiss.
That's fine.
Know, it could have certainly used one.
I'm just curious as to what made that decision.
I'm not trying to answer you like I'm mad at you. You always think I'm mad at you, but I'm not. I mean, I really didn't feel like after we had gone through all that we did with the balcony scene that I even wanted to bring up, hey, you know, you could kiss some more places in the play. It was just like, I think they were done. They were good. We got this part, and the audience got what they wanted to. Except, I will say this. One of my students, because one of our assignments right now on our remote learning is to write a review of the play. And somebody said that behind her, there was a little girl constantly whispering, kiss, kiss, kiss. And she was so upset that every time y'all got close to each other and you didn't kiss, she was just like, oh.
Well, I guess that's a good reaction. That's the desired
So apparently,
reaction.
we could have certainly kissed more for certain people in the audience to enjoy. So
Yeah. So, Donna, you said that you have the full video pulled up in front of you, huh?
I do.
And
so y'all want to go through it scene by scene?
Yes, of course.
Well, let's do it. So the first scene is the prologue, and I will talk. Well, see, that's another thing I'm very proud of writing, because I looked at how the hold on just a second.
That's fine.
I looked at how the prologue for the play was written, and of course I've taught it many times, and so many of our students have to actually learn it. And it's iambic pentameter, and I didn't quite get the iambic part, which is the da-dun, 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 but I got the pentameter, so I did get 10 syllables in every line, and it took a while to make it actually say what I wanted it to say, but I just loved the idea of having the prologue just like in the real play. So when the hippies came out, I decided that the hippies should introduce it, and it took a while to figure out how they were going to do it, but each one of the hippie tribe came forward with a certain line, and they had their tambourine and bongos and they crazy arm movements and all that they did. And it was just so cool just to start the play that way and watch the audience get to know the hippies and get to see what the play was about, just like in the actual Shakespeare story. I just really, really loved that part so much. So that's my comments. Go ahead, Casey.
The insult battle and that scene, the prologue and the Queen Mab speech, that was all Donna. I had nothing to do with those parts. I mean, we talked about it, but I didn't write any of it. But yeah, I just want to say, like, just for the rest of the time we talk about this, I'm going to keep saying it. I think the hippies did an amazing job. I think that, they all just really put life into it, because it could have very easily fallen flat if they just didn't, go out and move around and dance and really play their bongos and stuff, But I think that pretty much all of them, they did that, and they really put the energy into it, and they really made it look really good and really fun,
I totally agree. And I was going to look at right now, we moved from the prologue to the protest. And so they weren't all the hippies aren't in the protest scene. But the idea is that instead of having the street fight like they do at the beginning of Romeo and Juliet, there's a protest that's interrupted by some of the, I guess we'll call them socialite snobs, whatever you want to call them, the people who don't like hippies.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed so much the hippies. And I know what I was going to say. So many people, because of just how I can word this, because of stereotypes, associate hippies just straight up with drugs. And I was very concerned about that when we were writing, because I didn't want any reference to these people on stage are stoned out of their mind, being one with the universe or whatever. I did not want that at all. And I felt like our hippies did not do that. They were hippies. They were concerned about the environment. They lived in the park. They were a tribe. But I think we completely steered away from that, which was really something I tried very hard to do. I mean, we didn't even throw in hippie slang. We thought about it at first, but it's like, let's just be hippies. The language will be whatever it is. And so looking at the scene I'm looking at now is when our Thad character and our Peter character come in and they start their argument. And both of those, they just both did a phenomenal job, I thought. I'm looking at their clothes, and I do have to throw this in. I shopped for over a month on weekends in thrift stores, and also had a few friends that had some actual hippie stuff, and we had some stuff in our prop room. But putting together clothes for every student in the play, for every scene they were in, and keeping all that straight, and maintaining a 60s look on stage, I got quite a few compliments about the costuming, and I'm so happy about that, because it was a massive effort, and I'm sure I don't even want to know probably what happened backstage, but somehow it got kept straight by the actors and the people who helped backstage, getting people in their right clothes and keeping them straight for the next night. And I'm just so happy with just all the play. The pictures are so colorful, and I just really think everybody looked very 60s. So the scene
I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I personally think that, it was a huge effort to do all the clothes, like even just keeping it together and making sure that people kept it in the place it needed to be. But especially, I know I had a lot of quick changes, almost every time I got off stage, it was a quick change. And I actually had a couple of people ask me when I got off stage, how did you change that fast so many times? And yeah, so that was a challenge in itself, because I don't think we've ever had a play that's had that many quick changes for so many people. You know, except for Dinky Springs, but everyone had to change, so it was kind of different because like we built in time for people to change because everyone had to. And so that was crazy in itself, all the clothes and all the quick changes and all the making sure it's in the right place. And so I don't even want to know all the stuff you had to do to get it together. That must have been insane, because I know you were talking to me a lot about it throughout the process.
And I can't see any time in the play that there was an issue with it either. There was never somebody running in late because they didn't have the right costume on. So
everyone had the stuff they needed. I think we did a good job of keeping track of the stuff backstage this time. Like there was never a time that I was like, where's my whatever, I can't find it, someone, moved it, or pretty much like what I did was I would run off and I'd hang my clothes like on one of the doors, like on stage. And every time I got there, everything would be there. Like literally, like I'd have to unclip my hair, like the clips would still be there. Like people did a good job of, like really respecting other people's stuff and not moving it and all that. So I think that was a very good thing this year. I think everyone did a good job.
Did a good job with that. That's terrific. So let's try to go back. I don't know if we're going to get through the whole play. So
well, scene one, I'm sorry. Let me go back to scene one. Scene one was one of my favorites to write, actually. I mean, like, not my favorite to write, but I liked writing scene one a lot because, I mean, one, it's the introduction. You meet pretty much everyone except River and Juliana. And so I think it does a good job of like showing everybody, but not actually showing them. But it's like you still kind of know what's going on, And I just think it was fun. I think the protest was fun.
It is fun.
The reasoning for disturbing it is because he didn't like their fashion. That's very bad. I liked writing that scene a lot. It was fun.
So we got Thad and Peter coming in, and then the police chief comes in, and then the mayor, who is Juliana's father, comes in with his sister, who is Thad's mother, and then my mind just went. Bridget is the campaign manager.
Campaign manager.
Yeah, so we're just setting up from the very first scene all the different issues and things, and Peter, or Paris, Peter is Paris' character, is asking in that scene already, can I go out with Juliana? So we've got to set all those things up. And then we have the hippies coming back in. And,
hey, guys, this is real quick. My dog is going a little crazy and barking, so I'm just going to mute my mic for a sec while he does all that, and y'all guys can just keep on going off and enjoy.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. So when they come back in, we meet River, and okay. I have a lot to say about this scene. This is the yoga scene. So do you want to talk about that a little bit, or
I have a couple of things to say about that. I think that scene was so much fun, and I think that when we wrote it, like we had played around with a few different things. Like who's going to be doing what. Like what kind of pose are they going to, how long are they going to do it? It could have gone so many different directions. Because I remember when I wrote it in there, I was like this could be funny, or they could just stand around and be like, we don't know what to do. But it was so funny, like, because the actors, they just got up on stage, and the day of is when they figured out all the stuff they were going to do. But it was so funny. And
I loved it.
It was very funny. They did a great job.
They did. So the quick story there is that Jason, who was our Mercury, our fun character, was doing a pose on the floor, and he brought his head up in between our River character's legs, and I'm like, nope. And they're like, oh, come on, Miss Van Oss, it's funny. I'm like, oh, come on, y'all. I'm like looking at somebody's crotch. I mean, my immediate reaction was, we can't do that. But then everybody was like, come on now, that's funny. So then it gave me the idea, well, now you move here and you do this pose. Now you move here and do this pose. And so we worked in a lot of different things that I would have never thought of if Jason hadn't done that.
Yeah, so exactly.
I think he was the catalyst there to make sure that everybody was doing some kind of interesting move. And then just watching it on stage with everybody doing their yoga, but still the dialogue moving forward. I have to say, this play, because it was more serious, had so many scenes where we could have potentially stood on stage in a line and said, my line, now say your line. And in fact, we did a lot in rehearsal. So it took a lot of work to get people into staging positions and movements that looked more normal. And the hippies doing yoga, and this is still the first scene of the play. I mean, it just set the tone. I loved it so much. That was so great. That was cool. So then the next scene is when we get to meet you coming in with your sister.
Yeah, that one, yes. So this one is basically, well, in, like I said, the first act really follows the original Romeo and Juliet well. So this, my parents basically come in, or Juliana's parents. I mean, I played Juliana somewhere.
Yes.
But yeah, so her parents come in, and they're like, and her parents and her sister, who the sister of Vivian is the kind of the nurse character.
Yes.
Like she's kind of just like the older sister figure. And so they're just like, hey, the hippies have been causing protests, so we're gonna make an ordinance to stop them from doing that, like make them get permission before they do it. And then they're like, well, we want you to date Peter. And she's just like, Peter's a jerk. He just talks about his muscles. Like, what? But so then she has to act like she likes him because she doesn't want to disappoint them, because they think that he's a really good match for her and all that. Mm-hmm. Which it leads directly into the balcony scenes, or not balcony, masquerade ball scene. Yes. Which then leads into the balcony scene. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's a nice setup, and I just thought the scene was straightforward, but still had enough. We're just trying to show the family closeness, and I think all the characters, all the people who played those roles, did a good job. It was nice to see two different dads, because Josh, our senior, could not do it both nights, so we actually brought in a student who had never done a play before to fill in, and he was so excited and really did a phenomenal job.
I think they both did a great job, yeah.
I do too. And Kirsten was a sweet mom.
Yeah.
And I thought Mallory was just such a cute older sister, so they all did a great job in their roles. And that scene, it goes from you talking to your parents with your sister to then just you talking to your sister. So
and I talked to her quite a lot. And I think we had a good dynamic on stage. I really, I thought we got the sister energy. We'd hug and all that.
I think that y'all were great. I thought Mallory was great. Y'all were great sisters. And I just want to mention, don't leave out Bridget. And when talking,
she wasn't in that scene.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were just talking about.
We're gonna talk about.
I thought we were just talking about like the character. I'm not. I'm sorry. About the character.
Okay. I mean, we can talk about Bridget. We mentioned her briefly,
right now.
but we didn't. So, what did you think about how she played her role, David?
I thought it was great because I wanted to kick her in the face.
Because I remember she said something to me one time like, these lines are so like all I talk about is the campaign. And I was like, yeah, that's the point, because you're supposed to be such an annoying character. You're just like, Robert, it's the campaign.
I hated
all
her.
That. Yeah,
she kept making
and
this
she
face
did a great
that
job.
Was so. But good, and it was annoying. Like she was just always with the clipboard and the clicking the pen. Like, oh my god, I wanted to. That's the point. So she was doing a great job.
I was gonna say
she kept like puckering her lips in this way. Like, was like, oh, I want to kick her. Just want to kick her.
Well, great.
She did a good job. Okay, so are we going on to Masquerade Ball now?
Yes, well, actually, it's the Queen Mab, the butterfly speech.
I forgot that's between there, sorry.
So we bring in the hippies again, and River is very unsure because he was real sad at the beginning, and they decided to show him the information about the Masquerade Ball. And even though they had just gotten into a scuffle with these same people, they figure going to a ball will cheer him up, and he can wear his mask and nobody will know him, just exactly like in Romeo and Juliet. Mm-hmm. So when he goes on and on about how he doesn't know if he should go or not because he had a bad dream, then we move into our speech, and so many elements of this are so wonderful, because in the speech there's a blue butterfly. So one of my girls, Eden, who's been in the program for the whole time it's been alive, is her final play. She gets to be a hippie, and she just totally fit the role. And she wore this gorgeous kaftan that we bought online that was just this gorgeous blue and was perfect for the wings of the butterfly. And she flew around and pulled him around, and he acted every single thing out. And the hippies are behind him, and just every part of the staging was just exactly what I would have wanted it to be if I could have made it perfect. Just watching it just in freeze frame right now, going forward to the different things. I could not be happier with this way the scene turned out. I love it.
Yeah, I think it turned out really good. And I think, like you said, everybody did such a great, they did such a great job with making it really come to life. And Jason did phenomenal, especially at that part.
He really did. It took a while for us to figure out where it was going, but once we got it there, he got really frantic at the end, like he was supposed to. Oh, so amazing, so amazing. So that was a cool scene. So then we move now to the masquerade. So we used 60s music in between each scene, and that's another thing that I have to take full credit for, because that's just my time. You know, I mean, I was born in '65, so I grew up hearing these songs over and over and over, and I listened to 60s music so much, and like getting ready for this play, and I found songs that I thought actually went with the storyline. And so we would play the 60s music, whatever song it was, in between, so that the scene changes were, we were rocking with our scene changes. So happy together.
They were long, just because they had to move so much stuff in and out from like the park scene versus like the home scenes. It was a lot of like props and things I had to put up.
Oh yeah, so we made the scene changes fun with the music. But this song, "Happy Together," I even had somebody ask me, "Why did you pick that song? I thought we were using actual authentic music." I'm like, that song is from '67. This play is in '68. Actually, it might be a '68 song, but I double checked. The play setting was '68, and I made sure I picked songs that were either a few years before or of that actual year. And it's just such a terrific song. So our people come in for the ball, dancing to that music, and then I'll let you talk some more about like what happens in the scene.
Yeah, so in this one, this is where Peter really gets to be a jerk to Juliana. He comes up and he's like, "Hey, I play tennis. Do you play tennis?" And she's just like, oh, and she doesn't like him. So then she gets away from him, and then she runs into River, or rather, he runs into her. That's a direct line. And so then they start talking, and we did a really cool thing with like basically when they look at each other the first time, everyone just stops on stage with whatever they're doing. So it's like a freeze frame around them, and it's just them talking, and they talk about, how it's like they don't really fit into like they don't perfectly fit into their different parts that they're in society, so then they talk about that, and they talk for a little bit, they get to like each other, and then Sarah, her mom, calls Juliana, and then everything goes back to normal. Then Thad sees the hippies there, and they kind of get into a scuffle. And then I'm like, "Why were you being so rude to them?" And he says, "Because they were hippies." And so then Juliana's just like, "Oh my God, why? Like, why is the guy like a hippie? Like, why, So, and I think it's a really cute scene, though. We had on masks, and mine, when I took it off, it actually got caught in my hair because I had like a, 60s bump thing on
yes.
And you can see it if you watch the video. You can see it for a second. I'm kind of standing there, and I don't want to pull it because then I know like I don't have another time till intermission that I can get my hair redone, and so I'm just trying to like unhook it from my hair, and it's like just not working. And
you got it.
I did get it.
Question. You're wearing a white mask, and the Juliana mask was the pink one. So did y'all choose to switch, or did you that's the one that ended up in your hand, or what happened there?
I remember during rehearsal we had kind of worn both. Like I remember I wore the pink and the white one a couple of times.
Okay.
And that's the one that they handed me, so I was just kind of like, okay, we'll wear this one.
Yeah, it really didn't make any difference. The audience didn't know, but I just, in my head, I think actually Lauren wore the pink one, so that's probably why I was thinking that the pink one was the one. But I had another thought. So when Peter was being obnoxious to Juliana, one of the jokes was visual. He had on this mask with this tremendous feather.
Huge feather, yeah.
So I thought that was funny. And then just a general comment, when the groups came out for the initial stage positions, the group that you were in with the two extras was more to the center than I would have liked, because when you and Cameron were doing your part with the freeze frame, you were literally almost running into lane because of where that group was. I just, in my head, if I could redo it, would like y'all to, that group to have 2 or 3 steps closer to stage right, I'm sure the audience didn't care, because even in the video, just watching it, the freeze frame is there and y'all are acting in the middle. But I just feel like the visual frame of it would have just been more what I had in mind if that group would have been closer to stage right. So That's just one of those things that happens in a live show. Like you can direct something 17,000 times, and however it looks on stage is how it looks on stage.
What happens, yeah.
The freeze frames were good. I mean, I really, the hippies, the two hippies that were left are Eden and Mercury, Indigo and Mercury, both so funny. So they did a hilarious freeze frame, and then the adults are in the back, and the kids are right there next to y'all. But the freeze frames look very natural, and actually, they did the job because people didn't really notice those people. They noticed they were frozen, but they didn't look at them, and that was the goal, to look at y'all, So I love that. All right, so you were getting to the part where you found out he was a hippie, so then what happened after that?
Yeah, well then after that, the Robert, the dad, he just our dad and mayor, he comes up and just, he's like, oh, who are they? And then I'm like, oh, they were no one, and then he ends the party, and that leads into the balcony scene. Yeah.
All right, so the balcony scene. So as much as you rehearse this one, I'll let you talk about that.
Oh, yes, we rehearsed it a lot. Like, during our lead-only practices, that was something that we would do, like, pretty much every time, because we're on stage together a lot, like, me and River, but it's not, like, Juliana and River are not alone many other times, like, for this extended amount of time, so we're the only ones on stage, so we had to really, make it good, and also it was just a lot of stuff that we had to do. But so it starts with Juliana and Vivian talking, and then Juliana's like, oh, I met a guy at the party, and Vivian's like, I thought we were going to talk to Peter, because she wants her to do what her parents want. And so then Juliana's like, yeah, but then I met this guy, and he's a hippie, but I really like him. And then Vivian's like, well, I mean, you can't do that. And then so Juliana's like, okay, fine, I'll talk to Peter later. And so then she's just kind of, just lonely and sad. So then she goes to her balcony, and then River and Mercury and Indigo come in, and that was a hilarious part.
It was.
Mercury and Indigo are, singing the songs from the party, and River's kind of like, guys, stop, but they just go around him singing. It was hilarious. I thought they did an amazing job with that. But
they did.
Yeah, then when River sees Juliana, though, he's like, oh, yeah, you guys should go. Like, you guys should go back to the park. I'm gonna stay here, and then he, then it goes into the monologue about how pretty she is. And then she has a monologue about, how much she likes him. And then this part that, the person that, you were talking about that came in to direct us, and done a lot of Shakespeare stuff. He said, when, Juliana, when you hear River for the first time, like, you're just hearing this random guy yell at you, and you're on your balcony, like, what would you do? And he was like, you'd be really scared. And I was like, yes. Then he was like, okay, drop down to the ground then. I was like, okay. So I had to, like, I had to get on my knees and be like, oh my God, who is it? I'm so embarrassed. And then, I had
that had humor. You don't always think of the balcony scene as funny, but that was funny.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny part. So then, I walk over and I crawl over and I peer over the edge and I'm like, River, is that you? And then, he comes up and, then it goes from there.
Oh, yeah. So that scene is what we talked about earlier with the timing. So you get close to each other and almost kiss, and you have to wait for your mom to call your name to break it. And she almost didn't call your name. But I have to say, performance, she got it by performance. We didn't have to worry about it in front of an audience. But a few times in rehearsal, it was. Yeah,
she would miss her cue because, well, the thing is, we had to like kind of dramatically turn our heads so that she could kind of see, like, okay, they're leaning in. So we, we're just, you can't see what I'm doing right now, but like we were,
doing that big lean. Yeah, that was so cute.
That worked out good though. She got her cue, and so we almost kissed a few times, but then we actually kissed at the end, and it was really quick, and
it was a tease.
Yeah, it was.
And that's okay.
I thought we did a good job with it. Like I'm personally happy with my performance, and I mean, obviously Cameron did amazing.
He really did. He's so cute. I'm looking at him at the end. He has this face like, whoa, so precious.
Oh yeah, and Lauren. Well, I got to watch the play the night that Lauren was Juliana, and she did a really good job too. I think that just watching them, I think they did an amazing job. And I mean, I wasn't able to see myself, but personally, like if I had to go back, we didn't miss any lines. I think that I wouldn't have really done anything different.
No, I think
you did as well as you wanted.
Casey.
Thank you.
Lauren,
we do need to. Right, we just make sure Lauren knows if she's listening or when she listens that every scene, I think that both of y'all did phenomenal all the way through.
She did a good job in everything too, definitely. I think she did an amazing job. And I liked it a lot the night that I watched her show. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the next scene is at school. So in the actual Romeo and Juliet, they set up to meet each other, but they're set up to meet each other is to get married. So we had to just kind of change that a bit. And they
a little bit. They go to school instead.
But they still get to see each other, and it's a very obvious two-sided thing. And this is when Romeo introduces you to his tribe, and they accept you. And then there's still the Thad and Peter pulling y'all apart, and we meet the two principals, and it's obvious that one is very hippie-like and one is very, snobby-like, and we set all that up. So is there anything else about that scene? I thought it went very well. It played well.
I thought it flowed well. I thought it was fun because, it's kind of like the hippies are, well, at first they're like skeptical. They're like, why, why does she like you? Like, what is this? Doesn't she hate us? And so then I go over there, and then they all kind of, they all hug me and stuff. And it's, it was really fun. I think they did a good job. I thought it was really cute. I like that scene a lot.
I like it too. So there was a little bit of a face-off here, but nothing huge. It's just kind of a precursor to
the big face-off. Yes, like pretty much every time Thad and Mercury see each other, they have like a little, little skirmish, but then it eventually escalates to the insult battle, which we'll get to later.
Exactly. So after that scene is the scene 6, where we're talking about what happened at school, and it's just the tribe talking about kind of all at once, and Mercury is kind of making fun of River for having a girlfriend, and Michael, who didn't want the role he had when we cast him, and then was not sure what to do with the hippie role when he got it at first, just completely grew into it to the point that I couldn't imagine anybody else playing the role of Bear.
He did an amazing job with it.
He did, and just watching him, and he was, telling everybody to be quiet, and he did all these extra hand motions, and said, okay, one at a time, and just so. I don't know. I just love the way he did the role. I didn't know how to even direct him because he is so specific in the way he moves and the way he talks. And it's just like, be a hippie. What else can I tell him? Be a hippie. And by the time we got to the play, that is exactly what he had done. So I was very pleased with that. Very pleased with it. Yeah. Oh, and I do have to mention this because we've talked about Indigo and Mercury, and we haven't said much about Sqribble. We will when we get to her bigger scenes. Oh, yeah,
because definitely during the eclipse scene.
Yes. That was, I think, her biggest moment. But we had two hippies named Sun and Moon, and they were just so cute together. They became like a pair through rehearsal, and it was difficult because our Moon character, our Moon was played by an actress who couldn't be in our class because of a schedule conflict, so they had to work only at rehearsal, but they did, and I will add in a few things about costumes. First of all, I want to back up real quick and say that the pink dress that you wore at the school scene, I love how that looked, and the way you had the scarf with it. I don't think Lauren wore the scarf, and it's like you had to. But I like what that added to it. But the dress in general was one of those authentic from the 60s dresses. And I think it was just so cool to see y'all in that. But my Sun and Moon characters, they dressed identical except that their shirts were a different color palette. So they both had on a tie-dye shirt and it was a different color. Then they both had on a print shirt and it was the same exact print, but one was more bright and one was more dark through the entire play. And I'm very proud of how I was able to pull that together. And I think some people noticed it. I don't know if they all did, but they were just so good. They worked so hard to get their pair dynamic going. So I wanted to throw that in about the hippies. And
I think it's interesting that Sun and Moon, they were some of the first characters that we came up with, remember?
Because we were trying to figure out how many hippies and what should their names be, and
yeah, we were like, wouldn't it be so cute if we had one named Moon and one named Sun, and they kind of like dressed the same and did all the same stuff. And I think that they definitely pulled it off really well, and I think they were very cute up there. I think they definitely had the little pair dynamic, like you said. I liked them a lot, and I think they did a great job.
And it was fun to write the part where they were acting out the eclipse, where the sun and the moon actually were like rotating around the earth, and that added a little bit of humor here and there. It was just cute and very hippie-ish. So this scene where they're talking about their day at school, I think there's not a whole lot more to say about it. It just moved the play forward, and I think they did a phenomenal job. So moving to the next scene is, this is just a talk at home about just kind of what's going on. So this is the scene where there's like the 4 adults and the 4 kids, and you're trying to make people see that hippies are not terrible, and Sarah's wearing the scarf from Mother Sqribble. So you can maybe comment a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so this is when, this is the first time that Juliana kind of like tries to stand up to her family. And in the same way that Mercury and Thad kind of, it's like every time they see each other, it's like there's a little kind of like, like they get into a little bit of a fight, but then it's like it goes away. And that's kind of how this is. Like pretty much every time we see them, we have Bridget, the campaign manager, Robert, Sarah, the mom, and Juliana at least. And then this one, there was some other people who did an amazing job, like Peter and Thad. But in this one, it's kind of the first time that she tells her family, like, hey, maybe the hippies aren't stupid. Maybe they have a point. And Sarah, the mom, she kind of agrees with her because she went and met Mother Sqribble because, she doesn't know it's Mother Sqribble yet, but she went and saw her and got a scarf because that's kind of how, the tribe makes money. Like they sell scarves and stuff they make. Yes. And so then, so she's got a scarf, and Bridget is like, ugh, like why would you get a scarf? Like you get it anywhere, just all that. And so it's pretty much all it is. It's just, Sarah kind of showing that she has a little bit more to her character than you might originally think she does. And then you see Bridget, and you can kind of see there's this kind of dynamic of like Bridget kind of, she just takes control of everything. And so she kind of almost wants the campaign to be hers. So she's kind of just like wanting Robert to do whatever she wants. And she's just like, yeah, but shouldn't we do it this way, Robert? Because I helped you win last time. And and so obviously Sarah doesn't like that because Sarah doesn't believe that. Like, she's like, well, maybe we should actually try to get along with these people. And Bridget's like, no, but then he's listening to her because she's the campaign manager. And it's just, that comes to a head later too. But that's all that.
It is a good conflict. And I wanted to comment about our character, Emily, who was played by Shelby, another first live performance with our theater anyway. She's a junior, and she was in my Theater 1 class, but she was a very natural actor.
Oh, yeah.
She really just fit right in. Like, I had been impressed with her in class, but she grabbed this role and just took it just exactly where it needed to go. Did a phenomenal job. I'm very pleased with her performance. Oh, yes. All right, so then moving on to scene 8. Well, here we go. Lunar eclipse ceremony.
Oh, yes, the lunar eclipse scene. I like this scene a lot. And I think it works really well. And this is where we can talk about Mother Sqribble, who's played by what?
Erin. Played by Erin.
Yeah, we love Erin. Erin's one of my really good friends, but I think she did an amazing job in this role because I kind of feel like when I was writing Mother Sqribble, like I wasn't really sure what direction people were going to take her in. Like whoever played her, I didn't know what they were going to do with her. You know what I'm saying? I felt like there was a lot of different things that they could do with her, like just for whatever actor did it. And I think that what Erin did was perfect because she was very motherly, but she was also very funny. And I mean, like every time she gets on stage, she's funny. So I think it worked out really well. I like the way that she played it, and she did an amazing job.
So I did research when I was putting the timeline together for the play, and there actually was a lunar eclipse on the dates that I've had the play set in my brain. So that's just a little side note there. Because there actually was. I think that's very cool. And so all of the star signs that I made you and River be are all around the actual time. Like your birthday in my head actually did fall on the cusp of Taurus and what, you know what I'm saying? So, and all of the information I had to say about
writing it. like when I originally wrote, before you added like your changes and stuff, I remember I had it at like a different date because I said it should be a spring equinox festival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so so you did your research and you put the right zodiac stuff. Thank you.
Well, I just
put around whatever day that would happen. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I looked up all kind of stuff about like even the two signs that what she said about a Taurus and a Pisces and how they would actually relate is just straight from an astrological, star sign website. But it just totally fit. I mean, it was so amazing that what she said really did work with the characters the way they were written, just perfect. So I did have to tailor it a bit, but I think even the part about sad was in there and that totally fit, just great. So when Erin was working on the scene, she didn't quite know what to do with it, but by the end, and it's a very cult looking scene because they're chanting and going around and people watching it kind of got uncomfortable in rehearsal, but I'm like, nope, this is exactly what it's supposed to be. And it turned out to be a very well received scene.
I think, on stage, like on the real stage when it really happened, I guess maybe it's because we all had the costumes on. I don't know what it was, but I think everyone perceived it differently. I guess during rehearsal, because it was just like a different environment, like some of the people that saw it were kind of like, that's a little weird. But then when they saw it on stage, they're like, wow, that's awesome,
It was awesome. And it was very well performed. I loved every part of it. So then we had intermission, and I liked that after intermission, the first two characters on stage were in full Shakespeare costume. Yes. That was not something I had in my mind visually, but that's just how it worked out, and it was perfect because like, oh, here we go, Shakespeare. So this is our Shakespeare insult battle. So we need to kind of start summing up. It's almost been an hour now. So
yeah, if you want, we can skip over some of the just like exposition-y scenes, like the ones where they talk at Juliana's house and stuff.
Yeah, we'll just make comments on what we thought about the actors, I guess. But what stands out to you about the well, this is one I could talk about. Tony, he is a junior, and he's the brother of a person who is of Maya, who was with me when the program started. So it's cool to see siblings come through, and he was thrilled to get a part. And it was a smaller part as far as number of roles, but he used his time on stage. And then the other person, the other principal, is Troy, who had so many conflicts with rehearsal, but I always try to get him on stage because even though he doesn't really show me what he can do in rehearsal, I know he can do it in performance because he always does. I mean, he wraps it up. And
he was a principal character in one of our other plays, Patriotic Pelican. He did an amazing job in that. So, we know he can do it.
Yeah, he just has such nuance to his movements and facial expressions, and both of them, they were fighting with each other because Tony played the more free-spirited principal and Troy was the more, stick in the mud socialite type who always took up for Thad and Peter, and they both really played the parts well. And so then it moves into just basically both sides, the hippies and the snobs, kind of talking. But then when the face-off starts, that's when it got so good. I don't think I could have been more pleased with how they actually showed the fight. So what did you want to say about that part?
I think, they did an amazing job. I think Jason, Cameron, Lane, I think they all did so amazing in that. I felt like it was the perfect level of like tension, and I felt they did a really good job of letting it kind of build first, Like they didn't start completely yelling at each other right off the bat. Like they kind of let it build until what happens is Mercury, he because in the real play he gets stabbed. That's what happens.
Yeah. He dies. Yes, he dies.
That is a Tybalt. That is supposed to be like Tybalt. And so this is kind of like their like the street fight they have. That's actually a insult battle. So then Mercury gets expelled because the principals come in and they're like, well, and then he's like, yeah, well, I'm sure I'll get treated fairly and all this stuff. So then River's kind of like, I caused all this. So then he gets mad at himself and he's just fed up with the system and everything. So then he goes and he starts yelling at Thad too. And then they just, like I said, they progress and they just get to, these like where they're just yelling these insults at each other. And then they come in and the emotions are really high and they're like, well, River, you're expelled now too, because I'm sorry, like you were fighting too. We can't do anything about it. So then River and Juliana, they hug and stuff, and they don't know if they'll ever see each other again because that's where they see each other because their parents can't, they won't see them hanging out if they hang out at school. So they're just really heartbroken and stuff. And I think it turned out amazing though.
It really did. So to kind of summarize, because we're running over our time. Not that we have to be right at an hour, but we're getting there. We have quite a few scenes that are just like in the real Romeo and Juliet. Make a plan and it goes wrong. Make a plan and it goes wrong. Make a plan and it goes wrong. So they just keep trying to see each other. Bear goes to talk to Juliana on the balcony. So there's the tennis scene. We can talk very briefly about that one.
Tennis scene, yeah. I like tennis scene a lot because basically it's just Peter takes Juliana out to play tennis. Finally, he talks about it so much. So then that's when Sun and Moon come in, and they're dressed as like preppy girls. And they have on sunglasses and stuff, and they're just completely like overacting, just like, we got our badminton stuck in a tree, and we don't know how to get it down. And like, so then they're just all over Peter, and that's how they lure him away so that River can come and talk to Juliana. But I just love that part. I thought it was so funny. Like it was hilarious. They did amazing with that.
I thought that was cute too, and it's the scene where even as much as y'all have tried to get together, y'all both realize you should break up.
Yeah.
So then at the end of that scene, Sqribble comes in to talk to River, and she convinces him that y'all both chose to break up with each other because y'all were trying to do what was best for the other one, and that y'all really do like each other. So then there's the whole, let's try to catch her on her way home from school, but they can't because Peter's with her all the time. And then finally, to make things actually come together, Sqribble talks to Sarah, Juliana's mom, because it's her with her free-spirited thinking that decides, I don't care about the campaign as much as I care about my daughter, and they arranged to let the tribe come to Juliana's birthday party. So we kind of skipped through a few scenes, but it was just like plan went wrong, plan went wrong.
Yeah, that was pretty solid.
Yeah, so then there's the last scene, so we can talk about that one a little bit more. So the birthday party, if there's anything you wanted to say about that.
Well, that's when everything gets resolved. That's when because there's a scene where just Sqribble and Sarah's talking, I like that scene. They did a good job with that. But so then all the hippies come in, and River gets to see Juliana, and then Robert's like, well, where are all these people coming from? And Sarah's like, well, I invited them because I really, I think you should give them a chance. And so that's the part where they kind of both stand up to Bridget, because Sarah's like, well, what do you want, Robert? Like, what do you want? Not her. Like, what do you want? And it's kind of a moment for both of them, because he picks his wife, this woman that he loves. He decides to listen to her, and he decides that it doesn't matter if he has to fire his campaign manager, even if it'll make him not do as good in the campaign, like, he listens to her. And so then he fires Bridget because she obviously doesn't like the hippies being there. And I thought that was a good moment. And I just like the ending a lot. Basically everything gets resolved. They Vivian and Thad are just like, oh my God, why are they here? And then the Indigo shows Thad how to do yoga and stuff.
That was so funny. Just the transformation, because it was maybe a little bit of an extreme turn, because Thad's always been such a fighter the whole time. But when Indigo massages his shoulders, and he's like, well, that does feel good. And so by the end of the play, he's not only doing yoga, but wearing sunglasses, and even comes out for curtain call with a flower ring on his head. So that was really, really just a complete change of demeanor. Even like the whole posture was just more laid back and casual. So Lane just pulled that off just beautifully. It was so funny. And I'm also looking right now on the video when Peter gives Juliana her birthday present, and it's this huge picture of just his face. Yeah. And the audience just died both nights. That was the funniest moment. Oh my God. Such a laugh. So he was. And then after Indigo shows Thad how to do some yoga, and all the hippies are doing yoga in the background, which was hilarious in itself. But then we have just kind of the face-off with Peter and Thad. And, well, actually, it's Peter telling Juliana, you should be my girlfriend. Why are you hanging around with this trash and whatever? And we find out that this is our big twist. The private investigator comes in, and you can tell that part.
Who was played by Nate, and he did a great job with his trench coat. I think it was very funny, like, the night that I watched it, when he walked in, everyone was just kind of like, who is this? Like, where is he coming from? Oh my God, what's about to happen? And, and then so he comes in, and, River is actually a millionaire. and he ran away from his family because they were like oil tycoons, and he just didn't like their, like, views and stuff. And so he had just run away a couple of months ago to live in the park and become a hippie because he wanted that kind of lifestyle,
Right.
kind of ideals. And so it's kind of a, interesting little moment when everyone's kind of like, what? You're actually rich? Like, what?
Ha ha ha. So she fell in love with somebody that changed her, but still can give her everything she needs according to her family. So that's kind of cool. And the hippies at the end usher off all of the snobby kids with their love, peace, and joy circle. And one of the best moments of this particular performance, I think she did it both nights, but Erin was still on stage and she was in her own revelry. Love, peace, joy, just all in the background by herself. And it was so funny. So then she told everybody goodbye and left. And the parents leave Juliana and River on stage alone at the very end, which I thought was a great way to end the play.
Oh, yeah. I remember, like, in the planning stages, we were like, oh, yeah, at the end, they have to be alone on stage. Like, that's how it's got to go,
Oh, yeah, yes, it is. So they are together and not dead.
Yes, they were not dead. They survived.
So they're going to twirl themselves off and go get some birthday cake. And then we did curtain calls to one of my favorite songs, Aquarius, because I am an Aquarius. But that's also from the hit Broadway musical Hair. So I thought that was an appropriate ending for us. So I love it.
Just got to say their little goodbyes, and it was emotional.
Yeah, it was, especially the second night.
Oh yeah, definitely. We got through all this and we're here and it's our last play and it's sad. It was really, and it just made me think, like, because I started off my freshman year when the program, not my freshman, my sophomore year, when the program began, I was a person working at the light board. I was the first lighting person. I mean, lighting's come a long way. They have computers now, not like switchboards like I had to do, but and it's just been a really long journey, and I just look back and I was like, wow, like I'm here now, and I me and Miss Van also wrote this play, and I'm starring in it this night. Like that's insane, and it got me.
Oh yeah. And see, we would have done all that in class too, so we'll just have to see if we're able to come back and do that. Our coronavirus might take that away from us, but we'll just have to see how that turns out. But if for some reason things don't give us the opportunity to say our goodbyes, at least our seniors had that chance on stage, so I was very pleased about that. Well, I do believe we should wrap this up. Is there any last comment you'd like to make?
I just had an amazing time, and especially these last 3 years, I think theater's changed me a lot, and it's been amazing. And I had so much fun writing that play, and that it's been, we've been writing it for almost a year, but it came out so well, and I think that it's everything we hoped it would be. And I think that everyone did so amazing, and I think that it was just so good. I think it was one of the best plays we've ever put on, just because everyone was so excited for it, and everyone was the energy was just amazing. Everyone was doing 100% on stage, and it showed, and they all did amazing.
I agree. So I guess that's a good way to end it. So David, do you want to talk us out? You've not said much this whole time.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I've been happy to chill out and let you guys just go off about this play y'all both worked so hard on. This time I was It's okay. I'll go ahead and sign us off. You guys, the Great was play. The Great was play. The play was great. I really enjoyed. I super enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I think everybody did an amazing job, and thank you guys so much for listening to this new episode of Creative Conversations with David and Donna and Casey this time. I really love the play. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Check out our other videos. If you love Donna, well, we'd really appreciate it if you're a student listening to this, do Donna a favor and hit that subscribe button.
Yes.
Don't you owe it to her. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been Creative Conversations of David and Donna. I'm David.
I'm Donna.
And I'm Casey.
Stay creative.